My husband grabbed the microphone at our 25th anniversary party while the entire family watched. 200 guests filled the Grand Meridian Ballroom. Friends, relatives, business partners, people who'd watched our marriage from a distance and assumed it was perfect. The chandeliers above us glittered like a celebration of success. White lilies lined the room, my favorite flowers, chosen not because I loved them, but because they photographed well. Everything about the night had been designed to impress. Easton stood on the small stage with that familiar, confident smile, the one I'd seen 1,000 times before important business presentations. I should have known. Something was wrong the moment I saw him adjust his tie that way. 25 years of marriage teaches you how to read signs, even the ones you wish you couldn't. "Ladies and gentlemen," Easton said smoothly, his voice carrying easily through the room. "Thank you all for being here tonight to celebrate 25 wonderful years of marriage with Antoinette and me." Applause filled the ballroom. I smiled automatically, hands clasped tightly in front of me to stop them from shaking. This was supposed to be our moment, our celebration. Easton's tone shifted, becoming casual, almost playful. "You know," he continued, "I've been thinking a lot about what makes a marriage last." I leaned forward slightly despite myself. We'd never really talked about that. We'd just existed side by side, living parallel lives that rarely crossed. "And I realized," he said, smiling wider, "it really comes down to understanding your roles." Something cold settled deep in my stomach, being honest about who brings what to the table. A few people laughed lightly. Then Easton said it. "Let's be honest," he chuckled. "I made the money. I built the business." He gestured broadly around the room, at the crystal chandeliers, the designer dresses, the expensive suits. "And Antoinette?" He looked directly at me, his smile sharp. "She changed diapers." The words hit me like a physical blow. My breath caught. I felt the color drain from my face as awkward laughter rippled through the crowd. The kind people make when they're uncomfortable but don't know how to react. Easton wasn't done. "She's lucky I kept her," he continued, voice casual, almost amused. "Really, what else would she do? She has no real skills, no education that matters. She's been living off my success for 25 years. The room went completely silent. Even the waitstaff stopped moving. I could feel every pair of eyes on me. Pity, embarrassment, judgment pressing down like weight on my chest. My hands were shaking now. 25 years of my life reduced to diapers and luck. 25 years of raising his children, managing his home, supporting his dreams, being the perfect wife, dismissed in front of everyone we knew. I glanced across the room. My son Michael stood frozen near the bar, staring at the floor. My daughter Sarah sat stiffly near the back, her face pale, saying nothing. No one spoke. No one defended me. I pushed my chair back slowly, needing air, needing to escape the humiliation burning through my chest. I started to stand, and then a calm, controlled voice cut through the silence. "Excuse me." Every head in the ballroom turned, including mine. The voice didn't belong to any of our guests. It came from the shadows near the stage, and the man who stepped forward next was about to change everything. The voice didn't belong to any of our guests. It came from the shadows near the edge of the ballroom. Calm, steady, and unmistakably authoritative. "Excuse me." The word cut cleanly through the silence. Every head in the room turned, including Easton's, including mine. A man stepped forward slowly, his presence commanding without effort. Tall, silver-haired, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit that looked understated only because of the confidence with which he wore it. I felt my heart stutter. I knew that face. Even after 25 years, I knew it. Landon Blackwood. Time had changed him, but not in ways that mattered. His features were sharper now, his gaze more controlled, more powerful. The boyish intensity I remembered had matured into something quieter and far more dangerous. Murmurs spread through the room as recognition dawned. Landon Blackwood Hotels. 4 continents. Dozens of luxury properties. The owner of the Grand Meridian itself. Easton blinked, clearly thrown off balance for the first time all evening. "I'm sorry," he said stiffly, tightening his grip on the microphone. And you are. Landon didn't raise his voice. I'm Landon Blackwood, he said evenly. I own this hotel. The murmurs grew louder. Easton forced a polite laugh. Well, this is a private event. You're in the middle of humiliating a remarkable woman, Landon interrupted calmly. The room froze. And I won't allow that to continue in my establishment. Easton's jaw tightened. This is between my wife and me. Landon stepped closer to the stage. No, he said quietly. This is between a man who believes he owns someone, and a woman who never belonged to him. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Before Easton could react, Landon reached out and took the microphone from his hand. Not roughly, not aggressively, like it was always his. The feedback screeched briefly, then settled. Landon turned to face the room. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice calm but carrying easily through the ballroom. I apologize for interrupting this celebration, but I think you deserve to know something about the woman this man just insulted. My chest tightened. He turned toward me, and the way he looked at me, not with pity, not with sympathy, but with recognition, made my breath catch. Antoinette is not lucky, Landon said clearly. She is not fortunate to have been kept by anyone. The silence became absolute. She is the one who got away. Easton's face drained of color. I've been waiting 25 years. Landon continued, his gaze never leaving mine. For the man who won her to prove he didn't deserve her. Easton laughed sharply, trying to regain control. This is insane. You don't know what you're talking about. Landon finally looked at him. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Easton snapped. Who are you to her? Landon didn't hesitate. I'm the man who loved her first. The microphone slipped from Easton's fingers and clattered against the stage, the screech of feedback echoing through the room. I barely heard it, because my entire world had just shifted. Landon stepped to the edge of the stage and extended his hand toward me. Antoinette, he said gently, would you like to get some air? 200 people watched. My husband stared at me in disbelief. My children waited. For the first time in 25 years, the choice was entirely mine. I looked at his outstretched hand, then at my husband, then at the room that had just watched me be erased. And I stood up. I stared at Landon's outstretched hand. Then I looked at Easton, at the man I had spent 25 years shrinking myself for. His face was frozen somewhere between disbelief and fury, as if the idea that I might actually stand up had never crossed his mind. 200 people watched, waiting, judging. I felt something strange settle inside me. Not courage, not confidence. Clarity. For the first time in 25 years. I wasn't asking what anyone else needed from me. I wasn't wondering how to smooth things over. I wasn't calculating how to make this moment easier for someone else. I stood up. The sound of my chair scraping against the marble floor echoed through the ballroom. Easton's eyes widened. Antoinette, he said sharply, his voice low but urgent. Sit down. I didn't. Landon didn't rush me. He didn't pull my hand. He just waited. That mattered more than he knew. I took a step forward, then another. The crowd parted instinctively, whispers rippling outward as I walked toward the stage. I was aware of everything. The heat of the lights, the weight of their stares, the tight knot in my chest. But I kept moving. Behind me, Easton's voice cracked through the silence. Don't you dare! I stopped for half a second. Not because I was afraid, because I was surprised. He'd never sounded panicked before. Don't you dare walk away from me, he said, louder now. You're embarrassing yourself. Embarrassing. That word had kept me obedient for decades. I didn't turn around. I climbed the steps onto the stage. Landon's hand was still there. Steady. Patient. When I placed my hand in his, something shifted. Not romance. Not rescue. Recognition. He helped me down the other side of the stage. Away from Easton. Away from the room that had watched me be reduced to a punchline. As we moved toward the private corridor, the ballroom erupted into hushed chaos. I could hear fragments. Did that just happen? Is that Landon Blackwood? Oh my God. I didn't look back. Easton followed a few steps, his voice sharp with disbelief. Antoinette, you're making a mistake, he snapped. You don't even know this man anymore. I stopped walking. Slowly I turned. For the first time that night, I looked directly at him. "I know exactly who you are," I said quietly. The words landed harder than any shout. His mouth opened. Closed. I turned back and kept walking. The cool night air hit my face the moment we stepped outside. Like permission to breathe again. My hands were trembling now, the adrenaline finally catching up with me. Landon led me through a side entrance, away from the main doors, away from the whispers and flashing phones. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. We reached a set of glass doors at the end of the corridor. Beyond them, a private terrace overlooked the city. The lights stretched endlessly, distant and calm, as if the world hadn't just cracked open beneath my feet. Landon released my hand. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. I almost laughed. My husband had humiliated me in front of 200 people. The man I chose not to marry had just stepped back into my life and upended everything I thought I knew. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I don't know anything right now." Landon nodded once as if that answer made perfect sense. Then he said something that made my chest tighten. "Antoinette," he said gently. "There's something you deserve to know." He looked out over the city lights. "Your husband didn't just steal your dignity tonight," Landon said quietly. "He stole your life a long time ago." The city stretched out below us, lights scattered like distant stars. For the first time all night, the noise was gone. No music, no whispers, no laughter forced out of discomfort. Just air, just space. Landon slipped his jacket off and placed it gently around my shoulders. I didn't protest. I didn't thank him either. I didn't trust my voice. "Are you cold?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," I said. "I think I'm just shaking." He nodded as if he understood exactly what that meant. We stood there in silence for a moment, the weight of everything pressing down between us. Then Landon spoke again. "You were studying industrial design." The words hit me harder than my husband's insult had. I turned sharply toward him. "What?" "At Northwestern," he continued calmly. "You were one of the best students in the program." My throat tightened. Nobody had said those words to me in decades. "That was a long time ago," I said, forcing the words out. "Not so long that I forgot," Landon replied. "You designed a lamp for Professor Williams' class. Curved glass base, light refracted from 3 angles. My breath caught. He called it the most innovative piece he'd seen in 15 years. Landon added. I closed my eyes. I remembered that lamp. I remembered staying up all night in my tiny apartment, hands shaking with excitement as the design finally worked. I remembered thinking I could change the way people experienced light. I hadn't thought about that woman in years. "I packed my portfolio away when I married Easton," I said quietly. I told myself it was just temporary. Landon didn't interrupt. "I got pregnant," I continued. "Then there was the house, the kids, his business. There was always something more important." "You were important," Landon said softly. I let out a humorless breath. Not to him. Landon leaned against the railing, eyes on the city. "I heard him practicing his speech this afternoon," he said. My stomach dropped. "He was in the presidential suite," Landon went on. "Laughing, talking about how he was finally going to put you in your place." I felt sick. "He planned it," I whispered. "Yes," Landon said. "He rehearsed it. 25 years of marriage, reduced to a performance. I couldn't stand there and let it happen," Landon said. "Not again." "Again?" I asked. He turned toward me fully now. 6 months after you left Northwestern," he said carefully. "Easton started Crawford Designs." The night seemed to tilt. "My husband's company," I said slowly. "Yes," Landon replied. "And his first product line looked familiar." I stared at him. "Our senior project," he said quietly. "The modular living design. The one we built together." The realization hit like a delayed explosion. "No," I said. "That's not possible." Landon met my eyes. "He didn't build his empire alone, Antoinette." My hands curled into fists. "What are you saying?" I asked. Landon didn't soften it. "I'm saying your husband built his fortune on your ideas." My heart slammed against my ribs. "You're saying," I whispered, "that everything he owns, Landon nodded once. "Thome belongs to me?" The words didn't make sense at first. They just hovered between us, heavy and unreal. "My ideas?" I repeated slowly. Landon didn't rush to explain. He let the truth settle, like he knew my mind needed time to catch up. "Do you remember your senior year project?" he asked quietly. "The integrated living system, modular furniture that adapted to small urban spaces." Of course I remembered. We'd spent months on it. Late nights, endless sketches, revisions layered on revisions. We were proud of that work. Prouder than anything else we'd ever created. We were ahead of our time, Landon said. "Professor Chen called it market-ready." My chest tightened. "I dropped out before graduation," I said. "I married Easton." Landon nodded. "And 6 months later," he said, "Crawford Designs launched its first product line." I felt dizzy. "The modular coffee table," Landon continued. "The one that reconfigured into storage and dining." I swallowed hard. "That was mine," I whispered. "I sketched it during a late-night study session. Easton found the drawing on the kitchen counter." Landon's jaw tightened. "He studied it," I said, memories crashing back. "Asked questions. Said he wanted to understand my work. Said he was proud of me. He'd sounded sincere. I'd believed him. He took it," Landon said simply. The words felt brutal in their simplicity. "Every major innovation Crawford Designs has released," Landon went on, "can be traced back to concepts you developed, either during college or during your marriage." My knees weakened. "The expandable shelving system," I said slowly. "The convertible workspaces. The eco-material designs." Landon nodded once. "All yours. The betrayal came in waves. It wasn't just theft. It was strategy. He didn't just steal my work. He erased my confidence so I'd never challenge him. He told me I didn't understand business," I said, "that I should leave the thinking to him. Because if I believed I was nothing, I'd never notice he was everything because of me." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "All these years," Landon exhaled. "Because you chose him," he said honestly. "And because you seemed settled. I didn't want to be the bitter man blaming your husband for his success." He looked at me steadily. "But tonight changed that." I laughed quietly, bitterly. "He called me lucky," I said. "Lucky to be kept." Landon shook his head. "He needed you small," he said. "Because if you ever remembered who you were, his entire empire would be exposed." I stared out at the city, hands shaking. "My whole life," I whispered. "I thought I gave up my dreams for my family." I turned back to him. "I didn't give them up," I said. "They were stolen." "Yes," Landon replied. Silence fell between us again, heavier than before. Then Landon spoke carefully. "There's something else you need to know." I looked at him. "He's not going to let you walk away," Landon said. "Not after tonight." "What do you mean?" I asked. Landon's expression hardened. "He's already planning how to take everything from you." My stomach dropped. "Take what?" I asked. Landon's voice was low and certain. "Your freedom." "Your freedom," Landon repeated. The word felt strange in my chest, like something I'd never been allowed to claim. "What do you mean?" I asked. Landon didn't answer immediately. He reached into his jacket and pulled out his phone, then hesitated, as if deciding how much truth I could handle at once. "Easton doesn't lose control quietly," he said finally. "Men like him don't walk away when their narrative breaks." I folded my arms tightly around myself. "He's already calling people," Landon continued. "His lawyer, his brother, business associates. He's trying to get ahead of what had happened tonight." A cold sensation crept up my spine. "Get ahead how?" Landon met my eyes. "He's going to claim you're unstable." The words landed hard. "That tonight was a breakdown," Landon went on. "That you were emotional, confused, manipulated." My mouth went dry. "That you can't be trusted to make decisions for yourself." I shook my head slowly. "He can't do that," I said, though my voice lacked conviction. "He can try," Landon replied. "And if he convinces the right people, he can push for psychiatric evaluation, conservatorship." The word echoed. Conservatorship. "He would control your assets." Landon said quietly. Your finances. Your medical decisions. Where you live. My chest tightened. He'd own me, I whispered. Yes, Landon said. Legally. I stared at the city lights, my reflection faint in the glass. 25 years of being managed. Reduced to a document. A diagnosis. A signature. I heard him laughing this afternoon, Landon said, joking about how he'd remind you of your place. My hands curled into fists. He planned tonight, I said, and now he's planning this? Yes. Silence stretched between us. Then Landon spoke again, his tone shifting. There's something else, he said. Something that gives you leverage. I looked at him. I'm launching a new division within Blackwood Hotels, he said. Sustainable design, hospitality innovation. My heart stuttered. I need someone to lead it, he continued. Someone who understands space, efficiency, materials. Someone who can think beyond what already exists. I laughed softly, almost reflexively. I'm 56, I said. I haven't worked in decades. Landon didn't flinch. Design doesn't disappear, he said. And neither does talent. I shook my head. You're talking about a job. I'm talking about a partnership, Landon corrected. 50-50. Full ownership of your work. The air felt thin. Why? I asked. Because you built half an empire without credit, Landon said. And because you deserve to own what you create. I thought of Easton's words. Lucky I kept her. What happens if I say yes? I asked. Landon didn't soften the truth. He'll come for you harder. And if I say no? He'll still come for you, Landon said. But you'll be standing alone. I closed my eyes. For 25 years, I'd chosen safety over myself. Silence over conflict. Compliance over truth. Landon waited. He didn't push. Didn't rescue. He just let the choice exist. I need time, I said finally. Landon nodded. Take it, he replied. But understand this, Antoinette. He looked at me steadily. Whatever you choose next will decide. Whether you survive him or disappear completely. The drive back to Westfield Manor felt unreal. The streets were quiet. Familiar. Perfectly trimmed hedges and gated. Driveways passed by like nothing in my life. Had just shattered. Our house, Easton's house, sat at the end of the curved driveway. All stone columns and polished windows. A symbol of success. A monument built on stolen ideas. Easton's car was already there. So was his brother Richard's. Of course. I sat in my car for a long moment, hands gripping the steering wheel, reminding myself to breathe. They were already planning. Inside, the front door was unlocked, as it always was. Easton had never worried about security. Why would he? He never imagined I'd be the one walking out. Antoinette? Easton's voice called from the living room. Is that you? Yes, I replied, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. I found them seated across from each other. Legal papers spread neatly across the coffee table. Easton rose immediately, his expression carefully constructed. Concerned. Gentle. The way he spoke to people he believed were fragile. We were worried, he said. You didn't come home. I needed time to think, I replied. Richard stood as well, his tone professional, sympathetic. Antoinette, we should talk about what happened tonight. The incident, Easton corrected quickly. That man's behavior. I felt the shift instantly. The humiliation had already been reframed, managed. Has he told you what he said? I asked Richard calmly. Easton's jaw tightened. I told him about Landon Blackwood's inappropriate interference, he said. The absurd claims he made about your past. Absurd, I repeated. Which part was absurd? That he knew me, or that he said I was talented? Easton sighed, like a patient man dealing with a child. He's unstable, he said. Obsessed. Fixated on a college relationship that ended decades ago. A fantasy, I said quietly. Richard stepped in smoothly. We're concerned that you're emotionally overwhelmed. Tonight was obviously traumatic. Traumatic. Not humiliating. Not cruel. Traumatic. Something happening to me. Not something done to me. I was offered a job, I said. The silence was immediate. Easton stared at me, then laughed sharply. "A job?" he said. "Sweetheart, you haven't worked in 25 years. What kind of job could you possibly be qualified for?" There it was, the familiar dismissal. "A design partnership," I said evenly. Richard and Easton exchanged a glance. "Antoinette," Richard said gently, "men like Blackwood don't offer partnerships without an agenda." The implication hung thick in the air. "Unless," Easton added, his voice colder, "he's not interested in your work." I felt something settle in me. Not fear. Understanding. "You think he wants to sleep with me?" I said quietly. Easton didn't deny it. "I think you're vulnerable," he said. "And being manipulated," Richard nodded. "We think it would be best if you got some help." There it was. "Help? What kind of help?" I asked. "Residential treatment," Richard said smoothly. "A facility where you can rest, stabilize, get clarity, away from outside influences, away from Landon, away from choices, away from myself." "And if I refuse?" I asked. The room went still. Finally, Richard spoke. "If you're not capable of making rational decisions, then the people who love you have to intervene." I looked around the room, at the life I'd helped build, at the men who are now planning to erase me. "I need to get a few things upstairs," I said quietly. Easton smiled in relief. "Of course," he said. "Take your time." He thought I was surrendering. He had no idea. As I walked upstairs, one thought was perfectly clear. They weren't sending me away to heal. They were sending me away to disappear. The air outside the courthouse felt lighter, not because the fight was over, but because the truth had finally been spoken out loud. Sarah walked beside me, her hand still wrapped around mine. She didn't let go when the reporters called my name. She didn't look back when Easton stood frozen on the steps, his confidence shattered. That mattered more than the ruling itself. 3 weeks later, I stood on the balcony of my new apartment overlooking the city. It was smaller than the house in Westfield Manor. No marble staircase, no manicured hedges, no silent rooms built on stolen ideas. But every inch of this place was mine. I chose the furniture, the lighting, the colors. I built it the way I wanted. Clean lines, open space, light that moved instead of suffocated. My phone buzzed constantly now. Hotel executives, design firms, interview requests. The woman who had been dismissed as unemployable was suddenly in demand. Blackwood Design Partners had contracts on 3 continents. And for the first time in my life, I owned my work. Fully. Legally. Permanently. The call that mattered most came late one evening. "Mom," Michael said quietly. "I'm sorry." I closed my eyes. "I didn't see it," he continued. "I didn't ask questions. I believed what Dad said. You were taught to." I replied gently. There was a pause. "But I see it now," he said. "You were brilliant long before any of this." When I ended the call, I cried. Not from pain, from release. Later, Landon joined me on the balcony, 2 glasses in hand. We didn't rush anything. We didn't pretend the past hadn't left scars. But we stood side by side, equal. "You did this," he said quietly. "No," I corrected. I remembered who I was. The city lights stretched endlessly below us. For 25 years, I'd believed my life was over before it ever really began. That it was too late. That I was lucky to be kept. I know better now. I wasn't lucky. I was patient. And when the moment finally came, I chose myself. If you're listening to my story right now, ask yourself something. What would you do if the life you settled for suddenly cracked open? Would you go back to what was safe? Or would you step into who you were always meant to be? Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and what choice you would make. And on the screen now, I'm leaving 2 stories from this channel that changed lives just like mine. Thank you for staying with me until the end.